Hi, Beirut Buzzers, and welcome to another episode of Beirut Buzz, the podcast brought to you by Beirut.com. Today, May 10, marks the World Lupus Day, and joining me on this episode to raise awareness about this chronic autoimmune disease is Tracey Massoud, a lupus community advocate and a woman of many talents. Hi, Tracey.
Hi, Leon. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for hosting me tonight.
Thank you for joining us. Tell us, what have you been up to?
I just finished work. And I'm so happy to be with you tonight just to talk a bit more about lupus, share awareness, especially that May is Awareness Month, and today especially is Lupus Awareness Day. Thank you for that.
So as I said in the intro, you are a woman of many talents. You're a writer at ACT magazine, and you're also the founder of the Lebanese Lupus Association. What else do you do?
As any other person, I have hobbies, and I believe hobbies are very important for different reasons. So I do paint, I draw as well. I love swimming, so I swim like twice a week, and which helps me a lot with my lupus as well condition. And mainly that's it.
So before we talk about your experience with lupus, for those who have no idea what lupus is, can you give us some facts about this disease?
Sure. So lupus is when your immunity, I'm just going to try to use words to make it sound easier, but it's when your immunity fights your own cells or organs. It usually creates inflammation in the bodies, and it creates like minor problems to severe problems. So it can go from rashes to joint pain, and then like to kidney failure and heart problems, for instance. So it can be like mild, as it can be really severe for some people. It can lead to death if it's not properly managed and it's at a severe stage.
Mm-hmm. And in addition to the physical symptoms, how does the disease affect mental health, in general?
Listen, Lynn, like any other disease, when you feel that something isn't working well in your own body, it makes you question what is going on. The worst part about lupus is that it's kind of unpredictable. You can have flares up and down from mild to severe. So you constantly live as well with fatigue, with pain all over your body sometimes. So, and this is not something that helps mental health in any way. Plus, having to explain yourself to the people around you all the time. Sometimes you might have to cancel plans, or you just don't feel like going out, or you're just sick. So this also affects your mental health in so many ways. Not to mention the times where you have to go see the doctor or you have to go to the hospital. Okay, so Lynn, as you know, the physical condition always affects the mental health, because to feel well, it means you need to function well as well. So if you're feeling pain all over your body, or you're feeling tired all the day, you wouldn't feel okay mentally either. Plus, you will have to deal with a lot of times where you don't even know what's happening to your body, or you don't know what's happening anyway, or let's say there's a lot of unpredictability actually about the disease, where new symptoms can arise, or new things, or new autoimmune diseases linked to lupus can just emerge. So this doesn't really help mental health. In addition to that, having to explain yourself all the time to the people around you who are not really well informed about lupus, telling them, oh, I don't feel comfortable tonight to go out because I'm tired, or I cannot sit under the sun, or feeling like really bad when you sit under the sun. Like you always feel like you have to explain yourself. These are a few of the things that can affect our mental health, but it also depends on every person.
So you yourself, as you said, you are a lupus survivor. So can you share with us a bit about your story with lupus, and maybe how your mindset changed after your diagnosis?
Okay, so I started losing my hair. I was 11, and we didn't know why. It wasn't even something that is very maybe common, or maybe people didn't choose to talk about it. So I had to see a lot of doctors, like a dozen of doctors, if not more. And then they diagnosed me with alopecia universalis totalis, which means like I lost all my hair, and then even the hair in my body, my eyebrows, my eyelashes, everything in 1 year. And then after that, few years later, at the age of 15, I started developing photosensitivity. Like every time I used to sit under the sun, I used to feel like I'm about to faint, but I didn't know why. Throughout the age, I used to not feel okay. I used to tell my sister, I remember, I feel like I'm living in a 70-year-old body, but I'm only a teenager. Um, and still, I wasn't diagnosed back then with lupus. And then at the age of 24, I did a test for my thyroid, and the antibodies were really high. And although the doctor said that was okay, I didn't really buy it. So I checked with a rheumatologist in Lebanon, and this is where he started asking the right questions at the age of almost maybe 25 or 24. And I did some other tests, and this is where I got diagnosed with lupus, in addition to Hashimoto and alopecia. Whenever you have one autoimmune disease, you will most probably have, or you might have without knowing, other autoimmune diseases. And we never know why and what triggers them. So imagine, like, more than a decade later, I was able to know that I have lupus. So which shows how little even doctors know about it, about the symptoms, and how little the doctors who are not specialized in autoimmune diseases can actually redirect you. So I think that now there's a lot that has been done at this front, but there's still a lot to be done as well.
And I think this is where the Lebanese Lupus Association comes to work. Where did the idea come from, and when was the association established?
Okay, so that's a flashback, and it's actually a very nice period in my life. I'd like just to share something before. I said that I lost my hair. I was 11, and when I lost my hair, I wore wigs, right? Because it's not something that is easy to accept, because it's something that is changing in your body. Like if today you change the color of your hair, it takes you time. And if it's not voluntary, right, it takes you time to really adapt to it. So what if you lost your entire hair? And then 13 years later, I decided to not wear any wig. And this is where I liberated myself from any boundaries or anything that is stopping me, or because I realized that it's not only about our physical appearance, but it's much more. It's beyond that, actually. And when I did that, a few months later, I discovered I had lupus. So I launched my blog, which was called Piece of Tea, and I started writing about my experience with the hair loss. I tried as much as possible to inspire other people, not to remove their wigs, but to accept whatever they are passing through, is not to feel ashamed of the scars we have, but to say that's my story, and to feel proud of how far we've come. And then after launching my blog, I no longer wanted it to be about me. because it's a bit egocentric and I don't like this. So, and I wanted to pass it forward. I wanted other people to be in the front, especially when I was diagnosed as well with lupus. And I started it as a support group, like a couple of ladies. And when I say ladies, it's because it's 90% of lupus patients are women. So it's kind of sexist for the first time to women's favor. And we just shared our stories in one of the cafes in Beirut. It was amazing to see how every lupus story was so different from the other and how much they needed this to be there. The only thing that was missing or that I knew was missing is the people who are afraid to come forward or are afraid to share their story will not be there. So usually, most of the times, the people are part of our community are people who already reconciled in a way with the disease. And my aim for the Lebanese Lupus Association is to reach a point in time where everyone feel comfortable and safe to come forward and to belong to the community.
How does this association helps the community? Do you organize any events or fundraisers, for example?
Okay, so fundraisers, not yet, because I try to stay away from the financial side of it. Since, I mean, we're not funding any treatments so far, we're not contributing directly to a certain international research. But what we do is that we hold calls or live meetings where whoever is available can join, just a checkup. Sometimes we hold like some specific topics like mental health, or whenever we have new joiners to share their testimonial. Sometimes, and it's all actually not sometimes, I always make sure to have medical guidance on our calls because I'm not a professional, I'm not a doctor. So we have a doctor who's kind of shadowing our meetings and our group as well on WhatsApp. So whenever there's a medical question that is asked, we have a professional that is there who can redirect the patients. And whenever there's a question that is more morally supportive, we are all here to support and help. So it's much more about personal support, or let's say community support, much more than fundraiser or anything else, as well as the medical support, of course. And we saw this a lot during COVID, when a lot of medications were in Lebanon weren't available, how the different members of the association were there just to support each other, to redirect the members to the right pharmacy, to the right platform, or sometimes even support them with medication from their own.
So which actually puts you in the caregiver position. So someone who takes care of others, Kamina needs support. So how do you personally take care of your mental health? And maybe you can give tips to other survivors and fighters on how to overcome the difficulties.
Okay, so sometimes it's really hard to help ourselves, like alone. So I highly advise people who feel the need for help to just seek professional help. This is one. Two, in your daily life, I mean, this is something that I do, is I stay active. I do the things that I love to do. Like I swim, I work out. So swimming, like working out in general and maintaining a certain level of exercise, no matter how hard or easy it is, really helps like maintain healthy well-being. And I do paint, so I do the things where I'm able to disconnect. So these are very important. I would also add maintaining positive relationships around us, because Stress is one of the key factors for lupus flares and any other disease, right, to get worse. So I strongly push for people, either they have a medical condition or not, to maintain positive relationships around them, healthy, positive relationships around them. And this is something that I do and I'm keen on doing. So, yeah, that's in a nutshell what I do. So, again, healthy, positive relationships, exercise, and seek professional help whenever you need it.
Now that we covered the association, let's talk more about you and the other things that you do. I read that you are in the process of writing a book. Is this right? And what is it about?
Yes, so true. I'm writing a book. It's been taking a while. It's been 2 years now. I'm mainly talking about, I'm giving actually life testimonials, not only about lupus, but about other things that I've been through, be it through my childhood adversities or my professional life, my travels around the world, what I've learned. And it's mainly about how you can become a better version or the best version of yourself, how you can embrace change, and how you can get to this future self that you look up for. So yeah, mainly that's the topic around it. And maybe I'll seize the opportunity to tell all the people who are listening is that in life, you should have nothing to prove to other people, but a lot to prove to yourself. So your best benchmark will be just you yesterday, the way you used to think, the way you were, and the way you are today. And if you're doing better, there's a lot to celebrate already. So stop comparing yourself to other people and just draw the road for like the road ahead of you.
I'm so looking forward to reading this book. And we're gonna link your Instagram in the description so that people can follow you and stay updated about your work. You're also working on launching your own brand in the near future. So what should we expect?
Um, this is something that is still not very public, but I'm working on something, let's say, artistic, and I'm currently working on it. It's gonna be something artistic as well and something very meaningful. It's gonna be launched in the region and hopefully at some point to become an international, I'm gonna say trademark. So I won't be very explicit about it at this stage.
Okay. Last question. I would like to end this podcast with this question. What piece of advice would you give for people who are living with lupus and for everyone surrounding them?
Well, thank you for the question, Lean, and especially for the second part of the question. Answering the first part, for the people who are diagnosed with lupus, I would just say don't let lupus define you as much as possible. Try not to overthink about the disease so that you don't stress yourself out more than you already are. Try to engage in a healthy lifestyle. Try to stick to your doctor's not diagnose, I mean treatment, so you can maintain a stable state of lupus as much as possible. Take my tips when it comes to well-being, and I'm sure you can add a lot to it as well. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I just shared what works for me. Stay positive, and when I say stay positive, not in a cheesy way, because this word has become so commercial that we somehow lost its meaning. Stay positive as in stay hopeful, and always think that you can overcome things, and trust me, you will. For the people who are supporting people who are diagnosed with lupus, I would say number one, educate yourself as much as possible. People who suffer from lupus hate questions. At least I hate questions, and I hate to justify myself to the people around me. So the more you get informed about it, the less you ask questions and you understand the state of people diagnosed with lupus, the better they will feel. And I advise people who have lupus whenever they need to seek help. For the people supporting them, I would say exactly the same because there's nothing harder than having a disease, but like to support someone who's suffering from it because seeing people we love suffering from anything is really harmful for us and it doesn't do any good. So I really advise them to seek help whenever they need. And yeah, mainly that's it.
Sure.
Since it's Lupus Awareness Month, and every day should be any disease awareness so that we can raise awareness around it, just go to the page of the Lebanese Lupus Association and just check what are the symptoms, and all the information is there. Or you can simply Google it. I'm just not like driving people to the page. I just want them to know more, get informed, and just spread as well the word.
Tracy, you're such a beacon of hope. I loved having you on this podcast on this very special day. So thank you for joining and raising awareness about the physical and emotional impact of lupus, which most of the time go unnoticed, unfortunately. So for every lupus fighter who is finding some hard time coping with this disease, the Lebanese Lupus Association is here to help and support you. So please reach them out. They'd be more than happy to welcome you to their community. And for everyone who tuned in, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Beirut Buzz. You can find the podcast on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts from. And tune in to listen to our chats with different local creatives. Tracy, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the
Thank you, Neil.
conversation.